listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Theresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow.
So welcome back to the Overwhelmed to Empowered Summit, where we're sharing daily tools and practices and life-changing methods to go from a state of overwhelm to experiencing more joy, energy, and clarity. I'm your host, Andrea Baykir. I'm a yoga and meditation instructor, as well as a breathwork facilitator. And I'm really excited to be joined today by Theresa Lear Levine. And she is an EFT master practitioner and energy coach living in Davidsonville, Maryland, with her husband, Jeff, and their 4 boys. Theresa is no stranger to overwhelm, stress, and anxiety, but her challenges led her to discover and implement amazing coping mechanisms, and teaching and sharing them with others is her passion. In her business, Becoming More Me with EFT, she empowers entrepreneurial moms who feel a calling to more effectively release stress, overwhelm, and limiting beliefs, to clear their blocks and make way for purpose, fulfillment, calm, clarity, and joy, to flourish and thrive both at home with their families and in their work. Using the powerful practice of the emotional freedom technique, or tapping, once overwhelmed and stressed moms begin to positively transform, show up for themselves and their families in greater ways, reclaim their power, and learn to love, accept, and forgive themselves in all areas of their lives. It's so nice for you to be here, Theresa. Just your intro just exactly exemplifies why I wanted to have some tapping experts on in the summit, because it's such an amazing modality for moms, because it's so accessible, it's so usable, user-friendly. So I'm really excited to have you here, so you can just kind of go into what EFT is and go through all of the basics with our audience, because I'm sure there's some moms who have not heard of it yet.
Absolutely.
It's getting a little bit more mainstream, but it's not quite, all out there yet. So maybe you could share with us, what is emotional freedom technique? What is it, and how does it do its magic?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Andrea, thank you very much for having me here today. I am excited to speak to all the overwhelmed moms out there and to hopefully provide some hope and effective ways for them to cope better. And EFT, like you said, is definitely an awesome way to do that. So if we kind of go back to the basics, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it is not brand new by any means. In fact, it is something that comes from ancient Chinese traditions that are thousands of years old, and also from modern psychology. It's a beautiful blend of both of those. So the ancient Chinese methods that come into EFT are things that are also seen widely in practices like acupressure and acupuncture. So we use the meridian points, which are, like I said, the things that are in acupressure or acupuncture. And that means that different parts of our body allow us to access our energy a little better than others. So the basis of EFT is that you would be thinking about or talking about the thing that's bothering you or causing you that stress or overwhelm, while also tapping on different meridian endpoints in a certain sequence that's been proven to be extremely effective. And when you do that, you can lower stress hormones, things like cortisol. You can increase feel-good hormones like oxytocin and serotonin. EFT's actually been shown to change for the better 72 different genes in our body, which is amazing. And that's been scientifically proven. If you tap for just an hour, 72 different genes, things that contribute to stuff like type 2 diabetes and weight loss, metabolism, I'm trying to think of there's so many things, but all the things that we really want to be better in our lives become better through the practice of it. And one of the things I love about the practice is that you don't need to understand it. You don't even need to believe in it. If you just do it, it works. So like not having to like wrap your head around it, but just kind of ready, set, go. And to realize that at the end, you're not only going to feel better, but you're going to be changed for the better, because it really does peel back layers of things and it allows you to become more mindful, more conscious, and it brings you into the present moment, which I got to say is a hard place for moms to get a lot of the time. We have so much on our mind. And I mean, parenting is just inherently harder than we ever expect it to be. And that's not a negative thing. I mean, the challenges are beautiful. And but we've got worries and we've got concerns about our kids, about ourselves and our parenting role. And, are we doing enough? Are we being present enough? Are we involved enough? Are we connected enough? And we can be really hard on ourselves, and it can really affect our self-love and our presence in the moment. And then, I mean, that's just one part of the things that overwhelm us, because we've also got we've got the outside world and the way that that affects our kids and our families. We have the daily overwhelm with, in this season, it's back to school. There's our to-do lists, there's scheduling. I mean, I've got 4 boys myself, and I mean, I'm often responsible for getting 3 to 5 of us to different places for different things, and then also helping them to accomplish what needs to be done to do well at whatever it is that I'm taking them to do. So it's a lot, on top of trying to manage ourselves. And I think that's one reason why moms oftentimes don't put themselves first, but they fail to see how essential it is to do that in order to be able to execute any of the other things that actually matter to them.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
yeah. So, and I know, in your journey, that was probably part of what brought you to EFT. And
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it was kind of, I know that life is so full, right? We want to be there for everything. We want to have more energy. We don't want to be taken out of, being in that present moment. And so, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And I mean, it was massive, massive responsibility as moms, whether you're parenting one child or 12. And it's insane. And then, we have on top of all that stuff, we have our own fears, our limiting beliefs, our inner voice, and all of that lends itself to that stress and that anxiety that just builds if we don't find a way to release it. And so EFT helps you to break that cycle, like legitimately. And so that, because it's reactive and you don't want to be stuck in a reactive cycle. And there really is unlimited potential to the way that EFT can be used to support moms with stress and with overwhelm. So, like I was explaining, it works by, tapping those endpoints, and it releases that energy that's gotten stuck in our bodies. It's really easy. It's really fast. You can do a round of tapping, which means you're addressing a concern or, something like that in as little as 3 minutes. But oftentimes, if you've got multiple things overwhelming you, you might want to, do it for longer. But honestly, moms are short on time, and you can make really great headway in a really short period of time if you know what's bothering you, because it really favors being specific too. So instead of just tapping on, I'm really stressed out, it's better to, be able to address that with what you're specifically stressed out about. I'm worried that I'm not going to have enough time to do X, Y, or Z. I'm whatever it is. And then you can really help to calm your nervous system, which is what happens. Because when you're thinking about the science of EFT, which I really like to talk about because I'm a huge fan of like woo-woo stuff, but I feel like when you can support it with why it actually works, then people are more inclined to try it. And we can have so much fun embellishing our rounds of EFT with belief and manifesting and all sorts of other like beautiful things that people may or may not, be on board with. But the science is real no matter what perspective you approach your EFT from. So our amygdala is this like little part of our brain that is what kind of puts us into that fight, flight, or flee mode when it comes to things. And that used to be like so much more of a practical response when we were like cave people and being chased down by saber-toothed tigers and things. But in today's world, the way that that response like dumps out adrenaline and cortisol and all that kind of stuff just does not serve us in any positive way. So EFT allows us to disrupt that response and to be able to have a better response. And so like if you ever see an animal like get chased or an animal's in danger or something and they're having that response where they're dumping out the cortisol and the cortisol and the adrenaline and everything, and they finally get out of danger, or maybe they outrun whatever was chasing them or whatever. Like think about like a bunny rabbit like outrunning a fox or something, and then it gets to like a quiet place and you'll see it just shaking. It's shaking. It's and we're like, oh, poor bunny, it's scared. No, it is literally using its innate ability to shake off that unused and energy that poured into it. But we've never been taught to shake it off or to tap it out or whatever. Um, a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people find such great release through exercise or running or something that exerts their body and allows them to get that out, because otherwise it's just stagnating in our bodies. But literally, I mean, it can really help, like when you've been stressed out, to just shake your body, or just, I mean, even just tapping and getting on those meridian points. And that this isn't actually EFT tapping for anybody that's not familiar. Going up and down your meridians isn't EFT tapping per se, but it is really helpful at dissipating that unused energy and allowing it to circulate correctly through your body. Because so often we just get told, and we do this to our kids too, so we got to be aware of this, calm down, just relax, stop crying, get over it, all those kind of responses to things that actually don't do anything to help us. They don't regulate our system, and they don't allow us to become emotionally free. So in those moments, our energy stops flowing freely and it becomes stagnant, and that ends up causing all sorts of problems. And I'm not just talking about like stress and stuff, I'm talking about actual health problems and dis-ease in our bodies. So, and when something traumatic happens to us, that is when the energy gets stuck. And that is when we become programmed with all of these things that end up subconsciously coming back over and over again and become that voice in our head. And the reason why we can't, just calm down, or we can't just get present, or, stay calm, or just handle things in a rational way, because all this pre-programmed stuff is bouncing around and we don't know how to clear it. EFT clears it.
Yeah, I know. I'm so glad you say that, because it's not, because just that trauma that we experience, and I was talking about this with another speaker, trauma, a lot of times we think of really big experiences that you are having, but we are experiencing trauma like throughout every day, and it's just a shock to our system. And there's so much going on right now, that is traumatic.
Yes.
You really start thinking. And so, and if you don't have those tools in order to release it, it will get stuck in the body. And that, like you were just saying, can lead to, ultimately disease. But,
Right.
there are a lot of steps before that, that you can start recognizing it. But
sure. But as overwhelmed moms, usually we don't, because we're so busy not paying attention to ourselves to realize like, oh, I've had this little headache for weeks now, or I'm always tired at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, or all those we're not paying attention to ourselves, so it piles up really quick, and then all of a sudden there's something big that we have to deal with, instead of being able to manage it with something easy on a daily basis that really does change our health for the better. I mean, people talk all the time about practices that, oh, I feel so good when I do that. But then when you have a practice that actually alters your state of health and well-being, like legitimately, it's so powerful. And I think people discount it because they think, well, how could it really be doing anything to just, be talking and tapping on my body or whatever? But it does. And all I can say is you have to try it, commit to it for, a week or two on a daily basis and just see what happens. I mean, even just one round can make a huge difference for some people. And they're like, wow, did not. And it's empowering, like so empowering when you realize that literally in your own fingertips and your brain, you have the ability to regulate so much. So I don't know. I love that aspect of it being, because moms, we don't feel empowered all the time. We feel disempowered. We don't have a whole lot of control over our schedule. And even when we think we do, then somebody, we get a phone call, somebody's sick and they need to be picked up from school, or our schedule changes on a dime and we feel a lot of disempowerment because of that. So having things that empower us and give us a feeling of control, because we do have control over our emotional state, is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why it's just tapping is such a powerful modality, because can be very quick. It is right there at your fingertips. Yeah. So, I know that we weren't, I can just feel the audience like watching this, like, okay, sounds like amazing. Like, can you just like show me what this actually is? So I know that we weren't going to actually go, but maybe we could just do like a
Yeah, I feel called to do a little bit more than we said we were going to and over deliver a little here. But so the way that you begin a tapping round is with the side of your hand, we call it the karate chop point. Like think about if you were karate chopping a board. And I just take the four fingers from my other hand. It doesn't matter what hand, left, right, you can go this way, you can go that way, you can switch it up. Or alternatively, if you don't want to tap your hand, you can rub that sore spot on your chest, which is kind of like if you were going to like do the Pledge of Allegiance or have your hand over your heart and then you kind of just stretched your fingers up. It's right there. So, and you'll feel it because it's sore. It's called the sore spot for a very real reason, especially when I just worked upper body the other day. So yeah. So, and I found myself because, tapping has a sequence that when you hit all those points, you really clear stuff, but sometimes one point is just enough. And the sore spot on the chest, sometimes you can kind of get away with like working that and thinking about things without people noticing a whole lot. Um, and like I was waiting in line for this like huge roller coaster with my kids over the summer, and I was excited about it. I love roller coasters, but like I could feel like that tension rising, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna test out my EFT while I'm here waiting in this line and see if I can enjoy it even more because I'm not so like panicked about it, because it was one of those like goes up like 300 feet and then it just like goes down, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be great. But I sat there in line I started to actually tap on the side of my hand, and my oldest son looks at me and he's like, you're tapping, mom? Really? I'm like, yeah, really. Cause like I need that for this. Like, and so that I can enjoy this with you guys. And I did though. I was like, fine, I'll do it a little more discreetly. But, kind of getting into that spot while I was thinking like, I'm a little bit anxious about going on this roller coaster and it's going to be great. But right now, I just want to release that from my body so that I can enjoy this moment and be present with my sons. And it was amazing how much that just came down from one point. But if you're doing a regular round, you're starting on the side of your hand or you're starting on that sore spot and you're considering the problem, you're rating it on a scale of 1 to 10. So let's just take mom overwhelm, stress, that kind of thing, for example, since that's what we're here for. And I don't know, what's something that you're stressed about right now as a mom?
So let's just do like start of school, like
Back to school stress. Yep, big one. Um, so that has a lot of components. But okay, so you're stressed about back to school because schedule changes and, are the kids are they going to fit in? Are they going to like their class? Are they going to like their teacher? How's the homework going to go? Like all that stuff is happening inside of you too. So you're starting on the side of your hand and you're thinking about that and you're saying, okay, well, where am I on a scale of 1 to 10? So where are you? If you're like 10's like super duper stressed out and 0 is like, I feel awesome. Everything's good.
Yeah, so I'd say probably like around a 6.
Okay, 0 to 6. And
super stressed. My kids have been in school for a few days, so
there you go. So if this was last week, it might have been like an 8 or something, but we're getting into the routine now, and that's awesome. So yeah, the idea is that we want to shift the energy towards that 0 from that 6. Doesn't matter whether it shifts a point or all 6 points, but we're trying to shift it in that direction. So saying, and it's kind of, when I do rounds with people, it's like a repeat after me thing, but I mean, you don't have to. So you would be saying something like, even though I am really stressed about the start of school, I love, accept, and forgive myself. And you would repeat a setup statement like that 3 times. It could be the same one 3 times. It could change, even though I am, worried about how the first days of school are going to go or whatever. I love, accept, and forgive myself. And then you go into the actual points, which I start on the top of the head, which is like right around the crown of the head here. And usually 5 to 7 taps in each area is fine, but you can do more. You can stay in that one spot. I like to pepper it around on my head to get it all in there. Um, and then you kind of focus in on that feeling a little bit more. So, all this stress and overwhelm about my kids starting school. And then you move to the next point. And that's the eyebrow point, right about where the hair on the eyebrow starts. And I just use 2 fingers there. And again, and if you like to, some of these points, you have 2 of them and you can do both hands or you can do one. Doesn't matter. You can't do this wrong is really what I want to drive home, because I don't want people to think, oh, I can't do EFT tapping because I don't really know the exact formulation or sequence and I'm going to do it wrong. You're going to release something doing it, even if you do it wrong. So then you go to the next point and you talk about some other aspect of it. So I'm
So I'm worried that, say my son he just started middle school, so I'm worried that he's not going to have anybody to sit with at lunch.
Yeah. Where you won't have anybody to sit with at lunch. And then you go to the side of the eye over here, which also, you do one, both, whatever. Um, not really sure how getting to and from school is going to go. We have, new times of day that you're doing things maybe. Then you go under the eye and you think into it some more and you come up with another point there. But also, you could simply be just saying all this stress and overwhelm. I'm so stressed. This is a really difficult time. And I'm moving through different points because we go to under the eye, then we go to under the nose, under the lip, right here in that little cleft area of the chin. And then we go right around to the chest, kind of where that sore spot was, but just tapping it instead of rubbing into it. And then we go under the arm, which is for women right about where that bra strap would go under the arms. You're not going like up into the armpit, but you're going right around that area. And just feeling into it. But if it's easier, or if you're just silent tapping and not speaking out loud, then you could just be thinking about all those different aspects while you're just kind of saying all this stress. I'm so overwhelmed. And EFT favors you speaking into the negative before you try to affirm the positive. It's much like weeding a garden. There's no point planting in all the gorgeous perennials and shrubs and things that you want to have if you haven't weeded it first. And I'm not talking about running the lawnmower over weeding it where the weeds come back next week. I'm talking about pulling it up by the roots so they don't come back at all. And that's what EFT allows you to do. And it really just, it's such an effective tool to combine with any other thing. Like talk therapy is awesome. But when you can combine talk therapy with tapping, you actually like legitimately resolve things instead of feeling the need to talk about it again or whatever, or talk it to death until you're just tired of talking about it. It can happen so much faster. So yeah, but that's and you kind of normally go through those tapping points, the top of the head, eyebrow, around the eye, and then through 3 times. And then you just take that nice deep cleansing breath and just kind of, you release, and then you reassess that level of distress again. And you also kind of take note of like what else might have come up while you were doing that. Because like I said before, it's a process of peeling back layers. And once you remove one issue, oftentimes something else can come to the surface, which some people would be like, oh, why would I take the lid off and let it all out? But I mean, it's once you start letting it all out, then it goes. And you find yourself more resilient. You find yourself in a better place to respond to things instead of react. And all of a sudden you start looking at situations where, maybe before you started tapping, you would have reacted by yelling at the kids or just totally like losing yourself, or having some kind of a reaction that you're ashamed of or embarrassed about or whatever, and now you're actually able to like get that presence and be in the moment enough to have a response that you're so much more proud of and that really speaks to the heart-centered life that you're trying to live.
Right. Right. I love that. And so there's been so many things that I've been talking about with other speakers in this summit too, where I have thought about tapping as well. So for example, one thing that, as we're trying to reduce the overwhelm in our lives, a lot of times like setting boundaries or
Mm,
trying to, release some of the guilt that we might be feeling, and or having difficult conversations with people. These are all like, important inner work that we have to do that may not seem, but it's all about, really going inside of what it is that we
yes.
want and want to be seeing, and living our heart centered life, like you said. And
Boundaries are
these things,
huge for moms. Moms are
yes,
not awesome at holding boundaries. They can be. I
yes,
mean, just as a generalization, it's a stereotype. But
yeah,
for the most part, moms are not
yeah,
great with boundaries. And we're
yeah,
often trying to people please. Even if it's not like all the people that we're trying to please, we're usually trying to people please the people in our family. And we have to kind of step out of that. And I love working with people on creating those boundaries and really being able to, because that gives us space and it gives us time and it gives us clarity, which are things that we are desperately missing otherwise.
yeah, yeah. And it can all be done through tapping, that can
Hmm.
really kind of, because when you are beginning to change those patterns, when you have set up, established these ways of being in your life to start doing something new, it brings up a lot of emotion in us. And so EFT is such an amazing modality to really go from where we are right now to where we want to be in just like small increments, and just
Yeah.
like not having this be a big, oh my God, like I have to go take a week retreat to like Phoenix or someplace else. This is something that we can just, do like on a daily basis. It can be within our lives, when we're doing the things, we model it to our kids. I've done it
Yes.
before in front of my kids. This is a way that we can release our stress and lower anxiety and overwhelm.
It's a very easy technique to teach to children too. And the younger, the better, because they're just so much more open to it because it's very intuitive. I mean, being able to releasing things by tapping different parts. There's meridians other than the ones that I'm tapping. Like I just went to like the back of my neck is one of my favorite points and stuff. But, you think of the kids that, hold themselves in rock or that self soothe in all different ways. And we do it too. Like when you ever like stressed, you're like, oh, like you go for those temple points, it's tapping, or we hold our heads or whatever. It's all we're going to access those points, and kids do it so much more naturally, and they're not like embarrassed by it or thinking, oh, it kind of looks weird or it's strange or whatever. It's really very natural. And I don't know. So I mean, I feel like when kids are open to it, it's a great technique to teach them because it'll help them with test anxiety and just life anxiety and all the little things that come up along the way when they're open to
Yeah,
giving it a go.
yeah. Awesome, Theresa. Well, let me say again that Theresa is going to be in the Facebook group on the day that this interview is going live at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And so put in the Facebook group those things that are creating overwhelm in your life.
Yeah.
And she's going to do specific tapping meditations, or do you call them tapping meditations?
I call them tapping rounds, but I mean, it's not a
Um,
wrong name for it. So,
and so just, to help us out,
yeah.
and so that we can do some more active tapping.
Yeah, I
And
definitely
so
hope to see
Teresa,
people in the Facebook group because it'll be fun to tap along with people live
yeah,
and get to
yeah,
see in the comments and everything how it's affecting
yeah,
people's level of stress and everything else and be able to help you
yes,
in the moment to work on what's bothering you right then and there.
yeah, yeah. And so, Teresa, just share with everybody too, if someone is interested, finds that tapping is something that really resonates with them, how can they learn about you, or kind of what kind of things do you offer?
The best place is on my website, which is teresalearlevine.com, which has links to all the different things that I do. Very easy to find things from there. And I would definitely recommend using the the link that'll be provided through this summit to get my free gift, because that's going to have different tutorials and tapping rounds and scripts and ways to assess the different things that are currently causing stress and overwhelm in your life, and to be able to bring that down. So that's going to be an awesome thing to get your hands on. So I definitely recommend getting yourself a copy of that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Theresa. I really appreciate the time that you took to come on and to share this expertise with us.
My pleasure. Glad to be a part of it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.